the U.S. Transcom NDTA Fall Meeting 2020. I hope that you enjoyed day one of the fall meeting yesterday with our senior enlisted roundtable, the Transportation Academy, and the Expo Hall. This virtual platform, the environment that we're in, seemed to be working well yesterday, but certainly if you experience any problems, please contact our help desk or even call the NDTA headquarters. But please continue to visit the companies in the virtual Expo Hall and ask questions about the companies. Every question is a good one, and you can read the chats that others have left in the companies in their sites. So I notice also that there's some good questions that companies are asking people for their input regarding technology trends and their experiences in the logistics profession. Today we have an exciting lineup of speakers, a panel, and the Transportation Academy. In fact, our first speaker is planned, or in fact, he is live streaming by the Department of Defense right now, so that's live. Our first speaker is from the Office of Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Jordan Gillis. He has served as Assistant Secretary of Defense for Sustainment since March of this year. Mr. Gillis previously served as Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Energy, and Environment. A former Army Field Artillery officer, he was awarded the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart in 2008 while serving in Operation Iraqi Freedom. As the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Sustainment, he is the principal logistics official within the department, for which approximately $170 billion in logistics operations is spent annually. Mr. Gillis also oversees the department's real estate of over 500 installations and 28 million acres valued at over $1 trillion. In that portfolio, he manages military construction, environmental, energy, and occupational safety. He has exactly the right background in industry and within the Pentagon, and we appreciate him being here today. Mr. Gillis has agreed to take questions, so please submit your queries in the chat section of the platform. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Jordan Gillis to the fall meeting.
Hey, thanks. Good morning. So as I'm waiting for the applause to die down, I'll just go ahead and get started. General Lyons, Mr. Dietrich, Admiral Brown, distinguished guests, military members, government civilians, industry partners, it is an honor to speak to you all today. Even though we can't meet in person, I look forward to the same kind of open dialogue and the opportunity to address any questions that you might have at the end of my remarks. I'll talk a little bit about COVID, but I'll also talk about some of our future thoughts on transportation and logistics going forward. But let me start with a word of thanks to our industry partners for their continued support throughout the COVID outbreak. The unprecedented disruptions in commercial activity and evolving Department of Defense requirements have made for a very challenging year. And your support remains a critical link in our operations, allowing for continued mission success around the globe. So we appreciate that. And to the uniform members and civilians working in the various government agencies and organizations represented here, your efforts in these challenging times have allowed us to continue to protect our nation and prepare for future requirements. Your creativity and flexibility to work in a fluid environment has been the key to all of our successes. So during my time in uniform, I was on the user side, benefiting from this great enterprise, putting vehicles on trains and ships, traveling on aircraft, and receiving supplies via containers and delivered by all our cargo carriers. I should probably pause here to take a second to apologize. More than once, I took that little airplane pillow to make sleeping on the ground at the destination a little more comfortable. So I'll admit that now, but hopefully the statute of limitations has gone by. And although I certainly appreciated everything that existed to support the warfighter, I probably didn't fully recognize the amount of effort required and the broad spectrum of capabilities that come together to support service members. In my current position, obviously I have a new perspective and an even greater appreciation for the work that you do and the challenges you face to support both domestic and international operations. As you all well know and can appreciate, the scale of this enterprise is enormous, touches every corner of the globe, delivering supplies and personnel on a daily basis, creating new capabilities when needed, and adapting existing capabilities to meet emerging demands. This year, we were tested by the COVID-19 pandemic, and we stood up to the challenge. In the initial stages of the COVID outbreak in February, March, the department and industry faced significant challenges adjusting operations in what was a very uncertain environment, transitioning from a high operational tempo to nearly a stop of commercial activity and a disruption in military operations, which caused a great deal of turmoil for the department and probably everyone else here on the call, both at home and at work. In an effort to control the spread, the department curtailed major training events. We delayed deployments and redeployments and froze PCS moves. And internal to the department, changes were made to mitigate the risk of transmission within the workforce. Telework expanded dramatically. Meetings became virtual and telecons, just like this. Many of our Guard members were mobilized and called on to support local communities, and active duty organizations augmented civilian medical capabilities during the peak outbreak periods. And operationally, critical missions around the globe continued with appropriate risk mitigation put in place. As things stabilized more recently from an operational perspective, we've tapped industry and organic capabilities to deliver critical supplies around the globe. Delivering ventilators to Russia and Indonesia, delivering personal protective equipment and testing supplies from foreign manufacturers, and repatriating American citizens from foreign countries. We've executed force rotations, we've supported large-scale domestic and international training exercises, and sustained operations in various hotspots around the globe. The department sought new ways of applying existing authorities and capabilities to meet both internal requirements and support the efforts of our interagency and international partners. We adjusted approval authorities, we developed some new policies, created new working relationships within the department to bridge gaps and leverage expertise to solve unique challenges. One example of the many creative solutions used to address emergent needs was the effort to deliver testing supplies to various locations around the United States. And a great example of collaboration, Air Force C-17s flew the supplies from their source in Italy to Memphis, where they were handed off to FedEx's personnel for delivery to distribution points around the country. So the use of military aircraft allowed for expedited movement during the peak of Italy's outbreak and travel restrictions, and then FedEx sped that last mile of distribution so that we could get everything to where it needed to go. Fast forward to today, the department has largely returned to pre-COVID levels of activity, although that activity is different in subtle yet substantive ways. We've resumed training rotation to our CONUS training centers with some additional safety precautions. Deployments and redeployments are returning to previous schedules with restricted movement before deployment to reduce the risk of introducing COVID to the deployed force. Home station training has also resumed, and each of these activities levies the demand on industry that must also meet the safety and security requirements that we've instituted across DoD. Throughout all of this, the support that our industry partners continue to provide and the challenges faced across the globe in supply chains primarily highlight the need to build resilient systems to respond to environments like this where the challenges and the landscape is constantly changing. So with all that, what does the future look like? We hear terms like the new normal and unprecedented and unforeseen being used to describe the environment in which we're operating today. In fact, I used some of those words just a minute ago. And while they're all applicable, we can and must use the lessons learned from this disruption caused by a pandemic as we look toward future operations and emerging threats. Whether it's a future outbreak or a conflict with a near peer or peer competitors, we should expect to see disruptions to all elements of our operation. From the domestic transportation network to deployment modes and nodes, to our information technology networks, to tactical distribution, all will be contested and challenged. Gone are the days when we can count on the people, equipment, and supplies getting to the fight unchallenged. Starting as simply as fake social media designed to disrupt at home, attacks, both small scale kinetic and cyber at the installation, at the port of embarkation, in transit, at the port of debarkation. We have to be ready for the fight to get to the fight. And regardless of the threat or the capability, we know that resiliency must be included in the analysis and development on multiple levels. So while the overall network must be able to react and recover, its individual systems, organizations, and capabilities should be assessed for their ability to withstand attack and recover in short order independently for a more robust, resilient system. For instance, a single supply route to a particular location must be protected while ensuring that alternative routes to the same location are available. At the network level, are there operational approaches that can be used to achieve the same end state, and are there logistic implications requiring a shift in sustainment priorities to support a new main effort? Those are the questions that we're asking. But we know that resilience comes with a cost. However, the cost of not building resiliency is far greater. So we have to work to build in resiliency wherever possible by developing appropriate policy and doctrine to shape the development of cost-effective capabilities, improving the visibility of the network to allow timely and effective decision-making, and building robust data capabilities to anticipate requirements and leveraging new technologies. So how are we thinking about resilience and really incorporating that into our planning efforts, into our doctrine, into the way that we think and approach some of these problems? One of the department's key efforts that I'm pretty excited about is developing the next joint warfighting concept, or for those acronym-inclined people, the JWC. So the JWC is a SecDef-directed concept to guide future warfighting development and design to address how the joint or combined force will confront our nation's most pressing security challenges. So I don't want to get ahead of it because it's not officially published yet, but I can tell you that it is built around the 2018 National Defense Strategy, and it anticipates a potential fight against a near-peer adversary contested in all domains and spread across a large and potentially non-contiguous area. It assumes all domains are threatened, that the homeland is no longer a sanctuary, and that there will be a direct targeting of logistics. So as part of the joint warfighting concept, there is the joint concept for contested logistics, and that's one of four supporting concepts that looks to achieve agile and resilient logistics. So don't ask me about the other three, because the one that I care the most about is the joint concept for contested logistics. And it is informed by and informs what each service should develop in their specific service-focused future logistics concepts. The JCLL, it's another acronym, proposes 3 lines of effort. First is resilient integrated logistic command and control. Next is assured joint power projection. And then third is sustainment for distributed operations. So that's a pretty holistic look or vision for how we're going to fight and really conduct logistics in a future conflict. In a related effort, just prior to the COVID outbreak, the department started an analysis of our ability to effectively deploy from a disrupted homeland. And while that effort is largely focused on potential adversary actions that would impede deployment, the lessons learned from COVID will likely apply to the analysis, because regardless of the cause, the loss of modes, nodes, and any capabilities will have a similar impact. So if there is a silver lining of the pandemic, it's that it has allowed us to really test our operations at large, but specifically logistics and supply chain. And so it's been a good opportunity for us to build some of that into our plans, into our planning. We're also looking at material solutions in our resiliency plan for future concepts. In the maritime domain, our ability to quickly deploy significant forces and efficiently use transportation assets is tied to the readiness of our surge sea lift capability in the ready reserve fleet. And we all know that these vessels are aging and that the challenges of keeping them ready and the cost to operate them has reached a level where they have to be recapitalized. And so the department, along with the help of the Maritime Administration, has made great progress toward accelerating the recapitalization of the fleet. The first 2 of these vessels are expected to be purchased in FY 2021. That's this FY. Happy FY New Year, everybody. And that's really just the beginning of the larger recapitalization effort for the fleet. In addition, the services are also working to develop next generation capabilities, from unmanned logistics platforms to expanded mobility capabilities. These kinds of efforts will allow greater operational reach and flexibility to maneuver commanders and planners. On the demand side of the supply-demand equation, the services are also looking to improve energy efficiency of the various platforms. So, as we've been talking about for a while, by reducing energy demand on the forward edge of conflict, the logistics tail can be adjusted, supporting more operational forces over longer distances and time periods. And so that really is building in resiliency. We know we can't retrofit every engine across the department, for instance, to be twice as fuel efficient, but we can work to design that into future weapon systems and future upgrades. And that is a consideration that my department in particular is trying to drive in partnership with the acquisition community. Beyond the material solutions, information technology is and will continue to be a critical element of the resilience required by future conflicts. Maintaining visibility of the global supply and distribution picture will enable planners and operational commanders to make better decisions and capitalize on the advantages gained through logistics overmatch. Perhaps the most significant of the new technologies for the entire joint deployment and distribution enterprise is the Transportation Management System, TMS. TMS will not only improve the performance of the transportation network, but will also provide critical capability to ensure auditability, capturing financial data and performance confirmation in a single system. The net result will be more effective end-to-end visibility of both costs and operations. And I can't take credit. Transcom is leading this effort and is moving aggressively to apply the lessons from a prototype completed earlier this year to build a robust system that will meet the needs of the services and our commercial partners. The department has also recently achieved initial operational capability of the Munitions Readiness Initiative. So that we call that MRI, but not related to medical imaging. It's a system that provides near real-time visibility of global munitions posture, allowing timely, accurate, and data-driven decisions. It's a really neat system. It incorporates on-hand munitions, munitions in transit, and planning data for both production and consumption so that we get a really complete overall picture and a true visibility of capabilities. When the MRI system reaches full operational capability, the tool will also include the abilities to support wargaming and other scenario-based what-if additional analyses. And then finally, the department is also integrating innovative technologies that will further contribute to logistics overmatch. Additive manufacturing and forward locations, predictive maintenance, big data analytics, robotic and automation, non-destructive inspection, and advanced electronic diagnostics are all working to be incorporated. Those are just a few places where we, the department, can learn from those in industry who are ahead of us with respect to these kind of investments and capabilities. And similarly to those in industry who have yet to invest or investigate these kind of capabilities, this is our way of signaling our expectations. And so to have really that global data-informed, close to real-time picture is what we're seeking for both planning, readiness, and then operational capability. So, in conclusion, as we look forward to and continuing to recover from the COVID pandemic, I would challenge us all to seek opportunities to build resilience into our capabilities amid emerging threats. We have to identify the opportunities where we can leverage technology in partnership with industry and the department to increase the flexibility and agility that we will need in contested environments. For our commercial partners, I'm confident that you're assessing your operations and capabilities to ensure that you're ready for the next challenge, whenever that comes, whether it is a second wave of COVID, a different pandemic, cyber attacks on your network, loss of critical infrastructure, dramatic changes in the operation environment. We'll use COVID to make sure that we are better prepared to react to whatever changing environment we face in the future. For the government members in the audience, being online can make it a challenge, but this is exactly the kind of event and the kind of forum where we have to engage our industry partners to identify opportunities to collaborate and learn from best practices. We simply must bring those concepts into our development efforts so that we are better prepared for the contested environment in which we operate today and which we will for the foreseeable future. So thanks again to everyone who is participating in this great event. I encourage you to visit the virtual exhibit hall. I am jealous that I don't have more time to attend some of the Transportation Academy sessions. Those look like fantastic opportunities to learn from each other and from those on the panels and those who are presenting. So each of you plays a role in enabling the department to execute its mission. And I've said it before, I'll say it again because I mean it. We are each only truly successful as a team. So again, I appreciate the teamwork and I appreciate the participation today. So with that, I went a little quicker than I thought, but I'll open the floor to any softball questions that there may be out there.
Hey, sir, you covered a lot of territory there, and really great rundown. Really appreciate you talking about the joint warfighting concept, and I think industry is already starting to provide some input to the contested logistics aspects of it, and really like the way that you conveyed that we've got to be realistic in that contested and in our requirements. So that's a really great message. What's your sense? I'm going to ask you a softball question, I think, but what coming in, is your sense that the services, when it comes to logistics and sustainment, are working together at a greater degree than ever because of COVID? Or, I would imagine so, but can you comment on that at all, please?
Yeah, I think they are. I think, what that highlighted, looking at PPE, for instance, early on in COVID, it was clear early on that each of the services had visibility into their own PPE stockpiles and inventory. But then we had to add on top of that the capability that the Defense Logistics Agency brought in terms of, inventory and stockpile levels. And so, with the help of the J4 as the integrator, we as the department really got to use that as an example where we needed that cross-service and cross-agency visibility. And, I think whereas there are still always going to be service-specific needs and service-specific missions, but those that are common, I think this was a great example of us needing to have a global picture, a common picture, and being able to work together. So I think everybody knew in the back of their mind that eventually, we would all go fight in a joint way. This was an opportunity to exercise that in a different kind of environment, and it was good. Yeah, no, I do think the services are working together very well.
Good, thanks, sir. I'm going to turn it over to Avery and Ron, who may have some questions from the audience, if you don't mind. I see you, Ron. I see you. I'll turn it over to you for a few questions, please.
Yes, sir. So one of the questions that came from the audience when you were speaking on the joint concept for contested logistics was, as you consider the gaps and seams in that concept, and as you're building that concept out, how will you connect with industry, and how will you be able to tap into the logistics and the transformations that are occurring in industry and bring them into that concept?
Yeah, great question. And so first, we absolutely acknowledge that we need to do that. So as we work through the requirements and we work through then the gaps, I think everybody realizes that there is absolutely no way the department has or can achieve the level of organic support to meet all those requirements. And so the way we bridge those gaps is to rely on industry. What we'll look for from industry, though, then when we approach you on how to best fill those gaps, is to let us know what technology is out there, what opportunities are out there, what capabilities are out there that we can best leverage to meet the need. So I would hope that our approach is to sort of have a dialogue about the problem that we're trying to solve, rather than go to market looking for a defined solution that we've come up with. We see that a lot on the acquisition side. We try to answer the question before we go to industry, and that can narrow our scope. And I don't think we want to do that in this case. I think we're willing to listen to all proposals on how to cost effectively and thoroughly, meet some of these requirements. Because they're global, and so we'll be reaching out pretty broadly. Over.
So, sir, it sounds like you support the ATO process and acquisition, and that'll continue to be beneficial to the department, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for my acquisition or procurement friends, but generally the broader our authorities and the broader the latitude that we have, the better we are able to bring solutions to the table.
All right, thanks. Ron, any more?
Sorry about that, sir. Just had fight technology there for a second. Yes, sir. We got quite a few questions coming in. We're going to shift gears here. One of the audience members wants to know, does the department see space-based assets and platforms begin to deliver global combat power in the future? With all that's going on with SpaceX, with all that's going on with the new Space Force, how do you see and envision that future?
Yeah, so I think it is interesting and fascinating, and definitely from an operational standpoint, that's the leading edge. And so I haven't wrapped my head around how space could play in sustainment and logistics and transportation, other than as a technological enabler and as a domain where we have to be able to maintain our ability to use, satellites, comms links, and everything else to enable the enterprise. Sadly, that's as far as my thinking has gone. But, I would expect that in the next couple of years, as Space Force further establishes themselves, we'll look to see what additional innovations we can get either from space or from approaches that Spacecom and others are using.
Yeah, we have a panel tomorrow on space, sir, so that should be pretty good. Avery, I see you pop up. Any questions, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I got a question. So, in a global environment that is increasingly connected and against a threat that is attacking us across all domains, how do you foresee the global synchronization of logistics, and what must change about our current approach?
A couple things. The first is that we've got the cyber maturity model framework that we are trying to push out. And, it won't get immediate compliance, but that'll at least set the framework for the baseline requirements to sort of, enhance our cybersecurity. I think ultimately what we all want to get to, and it's not right around the corner, it's more of a midterm goal, is the ability to operate in a zero trust environment. So if my systems are robust enough and your systems are robust enough that we can talk in between and don't need to worry about interference, that's really what we need to get to. And obviously you could rewind technology and find a way to have Stone Age communications that are impenetrable, but the network that we need and some of the data sharing and the global data picture that we're really striving for really will be enabled first by the cyber maturity model and then eventually by the ability to operate in a zero trust environment.
I'll pass it back to Ron for another question, sir. We've got probably about 6-7 minutes left on the schedule before we have to switch to the next one immediately following you. But Ron, over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. This is just a little bit on how the DoD works its budget, and the question is with technology and the rate of change of technology occurring so fast, how does the DoD assess risk in the areas, and which areas of the budget do you take risk, and which areas do you jump to those future technologies?
Great question. If anybody can figure it out and send it my way, I would appreciate any cards and letters that would give me insight. But so broadly speaking, the SecDef and the National Defense Strategy really set the priorities. And so those would be the areas of primary investment. And so, that's readiness and that's modernization and that's really warfighting stuff. Logistics and transportation follow closely behind that. We get a lot of press on some of the shiny new weapon systems and capabilities where we invest. But we are also trying to invest heavily in the tail of the enterprise. And so, how we pick to take risk, each thing that we have should have a life cycle sustainment plan. And so, that really maps out when a weapon system, a technology, a thing, whatever, is supposed to start to sunset. And that will be when you see the sustainment investment in that thing start to curtail and the replacement system start to come online. So we do that for big things, big weapon systems like aircraft. We do it for things like technology. And, in almost all cases, whatever we plan when we acquire, whether it's tank, airplane technology, years down the road, it goes out the window and we adapt. So, I don't think anybody expected the B-52 would still be flying, 100 years on, or that the M1 tank would be 50 years old before it's retired. And so, in spite of our best planning, we always end up having to adapt. And that's the hard conversation then. That happens at the service level, where they make those trade-offs between systems and between other obligations. And then it comes up to Department of Defense, where we do the same thing between and betwixt services and also with the defense agencies. And so it is a cumbersome process, and it takes almost all year to do a budget. But we end up with a plan. We try to communicate it. We try to stick to it. But I'll be the first, and no one's shy about admitting that we often end up changing from the plan. New threats emerge, new priorities emerge, new technologies emerge. And so we try to plan, but then we always plan that we're going to have to adapt.
That's a great answer, sir. I think we have time for one more question from the team there.
Yes, sir. Swapping over to fuel, can you elaborate on initiatives the department is taking within the acquisition community to reduce future fuel demand?
Sure. Within the acquisition, so we have I'm an acquisition and sustainment organization. And I've got the sustainment side, and then the acquisition side really does the acquisition heavy lift. Nonetheless, we within sustainment, where also there exists a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Energy and Environment, we have a group, called Product Support, and I view them as our primary liaison with acquisition. And so it's really their job to drive the sustainment equities into the acquisition process. And that includes energy. That includes energy efficiency. We, like I said, there's no way we are going to spend the dollars to retrofit everything that there is in the department or to make more efficient everything that we have. But at least on those future acquisitions, we can be more mindful of the logistics tail. And that's what product support does. And it's not just the energy efficiency, but it's the maintainability and the sustainability of a thing or a system that we want to consider upfront and design in, so that we're not reacting down the road when something transitions to sustainment. A couple of other things about energy that are outside of the sustainment portfolio is that the department's investing in some new and emerging technologies. The Strategic Capabilities Office is looking at some innovative solutions. Each of the services are looking at some innovative solutions, both for operational energy, like the fuel requirements in a deployed scenario, and installation energy. The footprint, here in CONUS and for installations abroad, with respect to energy usage is not insignificant. And so it's not just fuel at the tip of the spear, it's energy, across the spectrum of things that we do, where we really need to be mindful, not just for cost, but really for the logistics tail too. So those are just a couple of the things that we've got underway.
Sir, thanks. As we close, any final thoughts? I just want to thank you for serving the country, both in uniform and in the department. I want you to know that we're all behind you, and if you ever need assistance, we're there. We are trying to be involved with the contested logistics aspects but any final thoughts, sir? Thanks.
No, other than thanks again for inviting me to be here. I really appreciate it. And I do want to thank again the industry partners for being here and for doing what they do. And also all the government folks in uniform and civilian who are participating. Thank you for what you do every day. And I hope this week, if you're able to work from home so that you can get into the virtual agenda, I hope you can take advantage of that and get to as many of the sessions as possible. So thank everybody for being here, and thank you for putting on the event. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
You bet.
Look
Out
forward
here.
to seeing you in person sometime.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, bye-bye.